And we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. If anybody's actually watching, which is probably one man and his dog, welcome to Leicester Till I Die's new attempt at doing a new podcast. Looking at Tuesday nights, 7:30 moving forward. This is just a practice run. You've got two old men and a natter. That's me, Chris, Leicester Till I Die. And hello, Craig.
Hello, Chris, and less of the old, if you don't mind.
It was the grey hair. Sorry, mate. It was.
Thanks, yeah. It takes a lot of looking after this grey hair.
Well, at least you've got hair, which is why I put a hat on. I've got no hair. But we're here. Let's talk about all things Leicester. And I thought we would start today by, well, 2 weeks off the season. The season starts, I can't believe, in 2 weeks. I'm not feeling excited. Are you?
I know exactly what you mean. I was watching a bit of the French football that was on earlier today, and it was interesting to see that there were fans actually in the stadium. Not sure how many they'd allowed in, but it didn't look particularly socially distanced, although they were all wearing masks. But whether we're going to get to that anytime soon, I'm not sure. I know that Brighton and Chelsea had a test game yesterday. I'm not sure how many they allowed in, but the numbers we're talking about. Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I know we're looking at around 9,000 or so at the moment, aren't we, in terms of capacity? And I think that in itself is causing a little bit of concern for the new season and how much a part of the new season the fans are going to be.
I mean, just looking there, the first comment there, good afternoon, Matthew, and good afternoon, Facebook user. But Facebook user has said that will be the lack of transfers. But it has, and obviously we are talking about strange times at the moment, and things are different to how they normally would be. But you sort of, the end of last season was almost a bit of a damp squid, and it seems like it's just carried on.
I think you're right, Chris. And I think, as the Facebook user says, it's a lack of transfers. But I think if we were sitting here coming off a top four finish, the lack of transfers wouldn't be as bad, or wouldn't feel it. We'd still be wanting some activity. But I think it's part of a carry-on of the sort of malaise over the last half of the season. And that's giving everyone sort of, a bit of old collywobbles and a bit of worry, I guess, towards what the new season will bring.
I mean, I hate to say this, but I actually watched the friendly yesterday, Sheffield Wednesday, and I actually gave up at half time. It just, I just can't get into it. I just can't. Like I say, whether it is the lack of transfer activity, and I think that has got a lot to do with it. And I know we have been, I think, if we signed everybody that we were going to sign, we'd be playing 9 at the back. I've said that a few times. But it's just and there are teams, if you look, Man United haven't signed anybody yet. But no. I think had we finished, like you say, top four, or third or fourth last season, no one going to the Champions League, at least would there be a buzz. I think the way it finished, plus the lack of signings, there's just no buzz there.
I think you're right, and as our Facebook user says there, our club has a history of doing things in the background. Wherever possible, we're at that type of club now, at the levels of transfer that we're doing. We don't want to publicize what we're trying to do and therefore get into bidding wars. So I think there'll be a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. We've doubted people in the past, and called for their heads almost in terms of lack of transfers or the quality of transfers. But I'm convinced that, that looking to improve the club goes on all year, not just as soon as there's a window open. So our targets will have been set a while back. As it gets towards the end of the window, I think that's more when things will start, because agents and players want to get the best deal for themselves. So unless they're really committed to a club or have some offers on the table, they're not going to jump straight away. but I do like to believe that there's things going on in the background.
And do you believe that the money is there? I mean, I sort of read. We read a lot of things. It's like going into a library and going into the make it up section. But they're saying like where we've been asked for sort of £40 million for a player, that we're not going to be paying that sort of money for a player. And yet we've done that in the past with Tillemans. We weren't so far off with Perez. And yet, if that's the case, especially when you look at the fact that all this COVID has affected the tourism industry badly, and our owners, it's all hotels and it's all duty free, which is very much tourism led.
Mm-hmm.
Are we in the phase that we are going to have to be bargain basement buy-in?
To be honest, I don't think it'll be bargain basement. I think we've got a couple of things. Obviously, the new training ground has sucked up a lot of money, and hopefully we'll get the benefit of that in the coming years. The plans for the stadium are still ongoing, and there's always money being spent there, whether it's architects' fees, before anything ever gets leaked. And we're in the Europa League now, so we've got to look to build a squad, or a stronger squad. I think it showed towards the end of the season the lack of depth that we've got in the squad. So if you've got a budget of let's say even 100 million, 120 million, you either say, right, we'll buy 40 million pound players, or we've got to somehow look to maybe get a marquee signing or two and then build the rest of the squad that has the strength in depth to push us through some bad times.
I mean, do you think this is why we've got? I mean, we all think that it's £50 million that Chilwell has gone to Chelsea for, but they're sort of saying it's undisclosed. Is that because we don't want clubs to know how much we've got to spend?
Exactly. I mean, I do wonder a lot about fees that are bandied around. We were Tagliafico and I can't remember the other guy. But obviously we've been linked with a few left backs. But 40 million seems to be the ballpark figure that everyone is bandying around, just because I think we got between 45 and 50 million. So a value of a player is only what someone's prepared to pay at the end of the day.
It is. I think we all agree that we need to strengthen the squad. I think, like you say, if last season showed us nothing, it was the fact that we didn't have that depth in squad. I mean, if we've got all our players fit and all our players back, we've only really lost one first team player, and obviously in Chilwell, but we haven't got that squad depth. And I think if we hit another season where we get an injury, we get a sending off, and we're playing more games as well, that's fine. I mean, we've shown that we've got the youngsters that can come through. But would you want to bring those youngsters on in a Europa League game that we need to win to qualify for the next round?
No, I think the club's got a lot of learning to do over this coming season, to be honest, because we're going to be in 4 competitions. Hopefully, quite a long way into those competitions as well. So we've got to have that depth of squad. It was interesting. I was looking at a few stats from the end of last season when we were talking about how we sort of tailed off, and it was interesting that we didn't win back-to-back league games from the end of the year. Our last back-to-back league game victories were the 28th of December and the 1st of January. We didn't manage back-to-back victories after that. So, that sort of end of the season, that was a long time coming almost, and it shows that 2 or 3 players in our team can make a hell of a difference. Pereira being out was a big loss. And even though Maddison wasn't really at his best, I think a lot, he's a player who attracts the opposition to him and to the ball, and therefore he creates space for other people. So as soon as he disappeared, we found it more difficult to create.
Yeah, and like again, Facebook user there has said, our current squad will not be able to compete in all competitions, and I think I think that is it. The thing that's keeping me sort of going is when we bought Perez, isn't it? Nobody knew anything. That was completely like that just came out of left field. Oh, is that you or me? I can hear.
That is me.
That is you.
That is me.
Right. God, you live in a big house.
As with all the best things. You hold the fort.
You for me, or was it? Dinner's ready. No, Facebook user, you said there our current club will not be able to compete in all competitions, and I think you are right. And I think the more games we play, the more chances you are of getting suspensions, the more chances you've got of getting injuries, and we do need to build. And you go like look at Burnley and Wolves in Europa. Burnley didn't strengthen out straight away. Wolves did, and went out with injuries towards the end. The more games you play, like I've just said, you'd gone then, Craig. What I said, the more games you play, the more chances you are of getting injuries, and the more chance you are of getting suspensions as well. Indeed,
this is that learning curve that we've got to go through if we want to be that regular top 8 club. We've got to learn to deal with that, and that doesn't come overnight. And I know, I do get a little bit frustrated, as I'm sure a lot of people do, of people who have been with this club for many, many years and seen all the ups and downs that we've gone through. And in many ways, that is part of being a Leicester fan. You've enjoyed that. I used to think, when we were yo-yoing up and down, and I was thinking at the time, would I like to be a Coventry fan? Obviously, the answer is no. It always would be, but they were regularly, but they were regularly 16th, 15th, and it's sort of that boredom factor. And now, if we get to that point where our biggest upset is going to be that we didn't make top 4 or top 6, then the club's come a long way, and we have to keep that in perspective. I think we do have rich owners, but at the end of the day, we do have to be realistic. We're not the hugest club. We're not the law of a big city. If somebody's got the opportunity to go to one of the Manchester teams or Liverpool or somewhere in London, they're going to choose there. So, we've got to shop accordingly. And we've got to accept that we're not going to be every player's first choice.
No, I was actually. I've got my Sky Sports back after it had gone down at the end of the season, and I've been watching a lot of Sky Retro games. 80% of which, of course, are Man United. But I was watching one there, and they lost Ronaldo to Real Madrid. And there's always, no matter how big you get, there'll always be bigger fish in the pond, if you like, And like you say, even if we finished in the Champions League, would Chilwell still have gone to Chelsea?
Personally, I don't think he would. I think that was the tipping point. And, there was a lot said about his statement to the fans and the sort of statement that he put out. And for me, that was I'm leaving to go to a bigger club, 101. You could have substituted any team's name in there, and it's the standard. Fans have been great, blah, blah, blah. What you want from that statement is his reasons of why he left. That's what fans want to hear. They don't want to hear it's been great playing here in front of you for 8 years, but I'm off to a big club. They want a little bit of truth. That statement to me said absolutely nothing.
Do you think, looking back, when we won the Premier League, was that when everybody's attitude and expectations more than anything changed? Before, had we finished second or third that season, I don't think we'd have probably had all the moaning that we'd had this season. But I think having won it the once, and we're all fans, we're all, human beings, the more you get, the more you want. But do you think that was when it all changed for us?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm not going to be one of those who sort of lambasts fans who for the want of a better phrase, jump on the bandwagon. I'd much rather they be Leicester fans than anybody else. And, it was a wake-up call that we have got a good club and a good team. But I think, yeah, you're right, that the expectations were raised at that point, that once you've done it once, there's no reason that you shouldn't do it every season. Whereas we all know there were mitigating circumstances for that. We had a fantastic season, probably the best we could have played in any one season. And it coincided with other teams going through transitional periods. It was an alignment of the planets that made it possible for us to win. But that, we've now sort of come through that, and we did quite well in the Champions League, which probably exacerbated it a little bit. If we'd gone out early in the Champions League, maybe the expectations would have been different.
I think the gods were smiling on us when they gave us that Champions League draw, to be honest with you. And I think had we got into the Champions League,
we're still the only team. Yeah,
Sorry, Craig.
We're still the only team who's managed to beat Sevilla in Europe.
Yes,
the only British team, anyway. So,
and the only British team to win the first 3 Champions League games as well. So, but I don't think we would have done as well this time had we got through.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't have had such a preferential draw. I don't think we'd have come up against some big boys, and in many ways, the biggest disappointment is going to be that if you get into Europe and you can't be there. So, whatever competition we were in, you take it now. If that we'd all take just being allowed to be in the ground at a game. And I think that's where we need to get the perspective right. Football is about winning and losing, and you can't all win.
No. Just mention now and say hello to Lee, Roy, Matthew. I don't know if Facebook user is the same Facebook user or not, and Dale. But Dale makes a very telling point there. As great as it was watching us win the league, but in terms of expectation, it's been the worst thing for the club. And he's probably right.
Oh, definitely. I think, we've been elevated to something that at this moment in time, we're not. We may be in another decade, once if we've established ourselves as a regular top half of the table finisher with a fantastic training ground, and we become an attractive club. And I think that whole training ground is to continue this process that we're under, which is buy young, sell big, and I think that's where the business model is.
But I think somebody posted on the group a while ago that it's fine having this fantastic multi-million-pound training ground, but you've got to have the players that live up to that to train on it.
Of course, but that's, you've got to bring them through. I mean, that's the best way of doing it, because we won't have the millions and billions to spend. So if you can grow your own talent, then it's even better. And, there's nothing better as a fan of being able to chant, he's one of our own.
Yeah, indeed. Although, having said that, do you think the new training ground with the golf course next to it would appeal to Gareth Bale?
Probably, but I would imagine he'll get hit on the ankles by a lot of golf balls and be crying off.
Yeah, he does. Again, I'm just looking back up the comments here, and just to move it on a little bit, just before I find that, I think, like you said, on that Premiership winning season, we were punching above our weight, almost definitely. And I think last season as well, had we not been as high as we were for the first half of the season, I don't think fans would have been as disappointed. But I think at the start of the season, again, we were punching above our weight.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, that first half of the season, we had a great run where I think in the cups and the leagues, we probably had about a 12-game winning streak, including the 9-0. And that sort of elevated us, nationally as well, having that. I think the worrying thing to me as a fan is I'm not seeing the development. I'm not seeing progress. I wasn't a Puel out. I thought Puel did a good job in being that transitional guy. You know, he was the one who sort of tried to get us playing football. He didn't do it the right way because he lost some players along the way. He wasn't getting the best out of Vardy, for instance. But have we seen a great deal of progress since then? I must admit, I'm not sure. We can retain the ball, but possession without penetration is nothing.
It's almost been like we've taken like one step forward, two steps backwards.
Or one pass forwards and two passes backwards.
Or even sideways, in the last 2 minutes of the game,
I think that's the frustrating thing, and I think that's where a lot of the frustration has come from over the last few games of the season. Of that, you know, we're a team, and I think it's as much about the style that we won the league as much as the fact that we won the league. It's the style that it was attacking, exciting football. Yeah, we sat back and we had to soak it up, but when we got the ball, we were fast. The transition was fast, and now we're seeing a slower pace, more European type of football, and the fans have to be able to go on that journey as well, and it's difficult.
Yeah. Rod, I've changed his name there. Roy, had we not won the league and shown the club's ambition, then we wouldn't have been able to attract the likes of Maddison, Tillemans, Ricky or Pratt. I think he's made a very good point there.
Definitely. I mean, those players wouldn't have seen us. And the fact that, you know, however you want to read into it, the fact that Maddison has signed a new 4-year contract, yes, the money comes with it. And it means we'll get a better fee at the end of it. But it is a sign that there must be things in the background that he sees, the fact that he is able to progress as a player. So whatever's going on the training ground, they must be able to see that this is a good place for them to progress before that big move. And, you know, with the best will in the world, we know those big moves are still going to come unless we're in the Champions League year in, year out.
Yeah, and I don't think, unfortunately, new contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on, are they, half the time? They'll just hopefully they'll put a release clause in.
I'm not sure. See, I'm not sure about the release clauses anymore either, because, you know, who knows where the market will be. You know, you put a release contract into a contract 3 years ago and said, right, you can't go for 30 million. That's nothing now.
No. Just moving on, because obviously looking at the time, and Roy did bring up about Pratt there. Looking at a couple of players that could be leaving the club, he's been linked with a move away to, is it Atalanta in Italy? Do you think he'll go?
I don't think so. And I think, you know, we've talked about, you know, people on the forums talking about getting rid of Demarai Gray and this, that. The danger with getting rid of your bench is the fact that you still have to fill the bench.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a little bit short-sighted of those people. You know, if you sell 5 out of your 7 on the bench of what you would call, you know, your sort of middling players, then you either fill them with people that you've bought and there's all your money gone, or you're filling it with youngsters. So I think it's dangerous to say, you know, those players should be moved on. I think, you know, Pratt only had his first year, and for me, he looked one of those players who was getting stronger as the season went.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I definitely think, like I say, he is one, you know, for the future, if not even next season. I did like the guy. But Gray, I'm seeing a bit of Chilwell factor there. Fans getting on his back, not liking him. He's been linked with Tottenham.
It's interesting. As I say, I mean, somebody's mentioned there that we never sang. We never sang is one of our own about Ben Chilwell. The thing about Chilwell for me is I don't know whether his natural instincts were being curtailed because of what he was being asked to do. It's almost like we have this fear now that it is possession over taking a risk. You know, the number of times that he would get the ball, come flying down the line, see a defender in his way and just turn back. You know, it's almost like they're playing with fear for me.
It is. I think when you get to that sort of state where Gray is, I think you go on, and maybe you've only got 10, 15, 20 minutes maximum to do anything. And it is that fear of not doing anything, if you like. But Gray, to me, if he is on his game, he can change it. He can bring him on, and he can have a go at the. He will, like I say, a lot of the time, at least attempt to go forward. And unfortunately, can be seen. Some would call him greedy. Some will say at least he's having a shot. And at least he's having an effort. But
I think we saw that yesterday with him. I think we saw that with him and Ian Acho yesterday. Where they could have passed. I watched a bit of. Forgive me, but I watched a bit of the MLS last night, and Orlando City were playing away at Atlanta, and they scored goals like we should have scored. Those ones where you draw it in, and instead of having a shot, you're aware of the players around you. And I think we've got a few players who are greedy now. It may be that it is pre-season, therefore they're trying to make a mark for themselves. But if you're going to play as a team, you've got to finish as a team. And I think we've missed lots of chances this season, just not by either being aware and having the vision or being too greedy.
Yeah, I mean, Roy again there, just go back to Gray, he said Gray hasn't kicked in, he needs to go and we need to look elsewhere. But can we afford to let players go? We said right at the start, our squad size cost us last season. We've not improved it yet this season. Can we afford, we've lost Chilwell, England left back, can we afford to let any more go?
Well, I think the thing, we're not really seeing that much coming through at the moment. There's a few players who seem to get 20 minutes here and there. So if you sell, let's say you allowed Gray to go for 20 million, there's a spot on your bench, as I mentioned earlier. Now we either end up spending another 10 million to fill a spot on a bench, or we bring somebody through. It's a really tricky one. And sometimes you think, you want everybody to be ready to go straight into the first team and play, but history has shown us that there are players who are impact players, and I think Gray is one of those.
Yes, yeah. And Iheanacho, could he? I mean, Vardy signed a contract, and he's with us, but I mean, he's 33, 34. He's not going to go on forever. I think his future possibly again is as an impact sub, bringing on 10, 15 minutes to go and show us what he's got. Is Iheanacho the man to take over from him, or do we need Eduardo or somebody like that from Celtic?
Well, to be honest, I've not seen enough of Eduardo, and I think that's when people start talking about we should get this player, that player. I'm not sure how much anybody's seen of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I like Iheanacho. I think he's got great feet. And in the type of football that we want to play, that into feet and getting the ball into the box, I think he's a good player. My biggest issue from our players at the minute is I don't see enough desire from our midfield to get in the box and score a goal. We very often get the ball up there and you look back and we've got 2 or 3 players just admiring it. Now, whether they're not fit enough, whether we haven't got athletes in the team, whether we just haven't got that desire. What I look for in a player, whether it's a fullback, whether it's a winger, whether it's a midfield player, is a desire to want to get forward and score a goal. You see it with some players. The guy at Newcastle, when he gets the ball, Saint-Maximin, he gets the ball, all he wants to do is attack. Even Nathan Redmond at Southampton, who's a player that I really like, when he gets the ball, all he wants to do is take on his fullback. But we haven't got enough players, for me, breaking a neck to get in the box. And if we don't score enough goals, we're not going to be challenging.
And do you think, I mean, you could say towards the end of last season, if we had everybody that was fit, you could name our starting 11 2 weeks in advance. And is that the problem? Yeah. Is that they feel too comfortable in think, well, if I have a bad game, I'm Jamie Vardy or I'm Ricardo Pereira, I'm still going to be picked.
Possibly. I mean, it's a good point. I think, so somebody mentioned in the comments earlier, one of our biggest issues is that there is no plan B. We change players, but we change it like for like. That I don't see a great tactical change, or if we do, it doesn't seem to work. I'll tell you, I heard someone talking about Arteta yesterday in the Arsenal game, and him playing Liverpool in a slightly different way. That the fact that he knows their fullbacks love to push on, so he wasn't averse to playing longer balls into channels to get their defence turned and get them moving forward. And I think you have to have that adaptability to look at the opposition's weakness and not be so stubborn. And I think Rodgers, for me, can get a little bit stubborn in the way that he wants to play.
Going to come on to these because it's two players that don't seem to have a future with the club, but we can't seem to get rid of, and that's Slimani and Silva. I made the point and a few weeks ago that I accept that neither of them are probably going to be starters, but they've both got immense European experience. And if we've got them for a year, why, if we don't sell Slimani now, do we send him out on loan or do we keep him? And we have got this European competition coming up. They are going to be Thursday games. We know what it's going to be like. We've seen clubs suffer before. Both Slimani and Silva have got European experience. Silva's won the European, the Euro 2016, I think it was. Would they not be good to keep hold of for those sort of games?
Silva, I'm not sure about. I was disappointed in Silva. I thought when he came, he looked really neat and tidy and good on the ball, and then the pace of the game just seemed to overtake him. It was very much like when we got Gökhan Inler. Very neat and tidy player, if you remember, but the pace of the game was just too much for him. Now, Silva seems to be an ideal Rodgers player, so I'm not sure why he's not been given a chance, whether his face doesn't fit in. I wouldn't be too sorry if he went, because I think we've got players in that position who can cover. I mean, I really like the look of Kieran Dewsbury-Hall. Had a great time at Blackpool and looks like one of those players who loves to get in the box and score a goal, which I think is something that we're lacking. So I'd like to see him given a chance. With regards to Slimani, I always like Slimani. Now, people can put comments in about that, but I always liked him. I think he demanded of the people around him. And you know what? It's great playing with wingers, but if there's nobody in the box to put the ball into, then, it's pointless. We have Vardy, who's a great striker, but he's barely 6 foot. I'd love Slimani as an option. I really would.
I don't think he had a bad, when he was actually in Europe, he didn't have a bad goal ratio game if you compare them to some of the other players. But somebody just put there Matty James, and I don't know whether his time has come and gone, but actually when you look at the squad that we've got in midfield, we're not exactly short of players in that department. I mean, we've got Chowdhury, and just then you were mentioning Dewsbury Hall. We've got these youngsters coming through, and I tend to, I'm saying to myself, look, next season's a big season for us. We're in Europe. Is this too soon for these youngsters coming through? But then when you look at how some of them have played when they've come through, it's the old saying, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
I think you only find out when you play them. And, the first thing is that you have to get them onto the bench. So, whether it's one or two of them making the bench on a regular occasion, they may not always get on. But in a game where you either need it to be changed or you're comfortable in a game, I think it's an opportunity for them to have minutes on the pitch. And some players rise to it. Some players, it eats them up, But it is about consistency. Harvey Barnes is inconsistent, but on his day, he's fantastic. But he was given a chance, and I think there's 2 or 3 of the others who just need a chance. And, for me, they should be getting some game time, longer game time in these pre-season. But they're definitely got to be people who are looking to be played in the cup competitions for me.
Yeah. Well, we said when we started doing this that we were going to do 20 minutes. We've actually done double that, 40. It just shows that once you start talking about Leicester City, you can't stop.
Yeah, that's it. And it's great that everybody has an opinion, and I'm sure you're the same. But I'm really happy to see people commenting. So thank you for everybody who's commented. And I know it's difficult for us to mention them all during the stream, but there's some very good points there. And as I say, everyone's a Leicester City fan at the end of the day, and whether we see the game being played differently, we all want the best for the club.
I think, I think if you look in the group, I think we do 100% agree with that. And I think when you look in the group and you can see fans having a go at each other, but I think it's born out of frustration. And I think it shows that we have a desire that we want our team to do well. But it is all about opinions, and nobody shouldn't have an opinion. And just because we don't agree with it, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Just going to put one last comment up there, which I must agree with there totally. Kramaric never got a chance now. He bangs in hat-tricks at Hamburg. And I think that is...
yes, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I think we were really, really hasty in getting rid of him.
Yes.
He would have been an ideal foil, I think, for Jamie. Very similar probably to Iheanacho, but Kramaric for me had great feet, and he looked like he had potential. Never got a run of games, I've no idea why he was let go so soon. Maybe he'll be one of those players that we end up buying back for God knows how much more than we actually let him go for. But yeah, really, 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 really good player.
I would have him back, definitely. I would definitely have him back. But then again, I'd have Musa back. Then maybe shows what I know.
I was at that cup game where he scored 2 against Everton. I was thinking of having it put on a T-shirt that I saw Musa score 2.
Don't forget he scored 2 against Barcelona as well.
He did. And again, it's about having players who can impact off the bench. We look at it and you say, Vardy and Iheanacho. I mean, our next was what, Hurst now? It's something that we've got to address.
I mean, just talking, and I'm just looking on here on the lcfc.com website at the forwards, and of course we've still got Diabate.
Again, I don't think any of us will ever forget that one game against Peterborough, where he looked like a world beater.
I know I had people that were criticising Musa, saying like Musa was rubbish, and then saying, but Diabate is the future. And I mean, he's got 2 against Peterborough, and Musa's got 2 against Barcelona. How that's football for you. But anyway, what have you got planned? You've got something planned for Tuesday, because just to let those guys that are still watching, and thank you all for joining us and commenting, and it's why we do this for you guys to join us. I know we're not as I say, we literally are two guys in a pint at the moment, so but we do our best. Hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be here every Tuesday, are we not, at 7:30?
Yeah, I mean, I think next on Tuesday, I think we'll probably take a closer look at that left back spot. I've been looking into a lot of the players who we've been linked with, and maybe one or two who haven't been mentioned.
Then, is it? So it's going to be a 2-hour show. Sorry? Then, is it? It's going to be a 2-hour show.
Yeah. But there's definitely a player in there, and I think I mentioned him to you privately before, Chris, who hasn't been mentioned at all. But if we could prize him away, he would be fantastic. But it'd be great for anybody who's watching, and maybe you could mention the fact that will be the subject coming up for Tuesday. That other people bring their own players who maybe have slipped under the radar at the moment. But I think it's clear that we will be looking for another fullback, and the way that Luke Thomas played in his first couple of games means there's no point really bringing in somebody of that age. So I know we were linked with, I don't want to go into it too much, but I know we were linked with Lewis at Norwich, but I'm not sure of the point of bringing him in when he's a very similar age to Luke Thomas, and so we've got our own. if we're looking, we need someone who's got a little bit more experience who can walk straight into the team. So I think it'd be good to have a little a chat about that and the options on Tuesday.
Well, Craig, thanks very much for joining me, and thank you to everybody else.
It's a pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, excuse me. I'm off to have a pint now. So you have one as well. I say your dinner was ready because the bell rang earlier. So have a good Sunday, and hopefully we'll see everybody on Tuesday at 7:30. Yeah,
that would be great. Enjoyed it, Chris, and again, thanks to everybody who's joined us today.
Brilliant. So everybody take care and stay safe.